Hey everyone, I'm James Bernard with Spectrasonics here at Superbooth 18, and here at the Superbooth we're announcing Omnisphere 2.5. This is an update that we're very proud of, very excited about. What we're doing in Omnisphere 2.5 is we've introduced something called hardware synth integration. And what that means is that when you're using a hardware synthesizer, like some of the ones we've displayed here, you're going to have a different level of control with Omnisphere. Now, one of the things that is great about software synthesizers is they're extremely powerful. You can do a lot with them. One of the things that people don't like about software synthesizers is you can't touch them. People love hardware because you can touch it and everything makes sense. Everything is laid out in a way that it's very easy to create sounds and tweak sounds. And the thing that's kind of been missing in the hardware-software world, or the software world, is the ability to treat software like hardware and immediately start to create sounds like you would with a hardware piece. Well, with the hardware synth integration, we're making that possible. We're the first company that's doing this, first in the world, that's doing this direct hardware synth integration into our software.
This was a feature request by the users?
Oh, it's been a feature request, I think, of everyone that's ever used software. You know, up to now, if you want to control your software, you use controller keyboards, and that's great, but there's a lot of things that you need to do to use a controller keyboard. You got to assign a knob. It's not really laid out like a synth, right? It's a little bit more of like a performance thing, but in the throes of actually creating sound and the fun and why people love hardware is because this is immediate tactile experience.
So how do you manage this? Is this made with a template? Or?
Yes. So what you're seeing here is in Omnisphere 2.5, we have what we create these we call them these hardware profiles, right? So they've been created for specific synthesizers. Right now we have about 20 profiles. There will be more when Omnisphere 2.5 is released. And we've tried to, you know, initially we're picking some synths that are very popular and sort of covering a wide range. So some of the more esoteric, expensive stuff, and also things like the boutiques, which are very accessible, inexpensive, easy to obtain. And so what happens is when you're using Omnisphere 2.5 with your hardware synth, you basically select it under the new hardware integration menu here. And once you've done that, it's ready to go. So right now I've selected this Moog Voyager, right? So immediately, everything that is on the front panel of this synth, all of the knobs, all the switches, all the buttons,
nothing mapping.
They all work, and they all do what they're supposed to do. You don't have to do anything.
Okay.
All you do is select it, and we've done all the work of mapping every knob, every button, every switch to do what it's supposed to do. And that's actually a lot more difficult than it sounds, because on some of the synths, these knobs may actually need to do more than one thing inside of Omnisphere to create the desired effect. So I may have to have, like when we've created a profile, one knob might be doing 10 different things in Omnisphere, but you don't know that. You're just turning a knob and it's giving you the results that you expect, being someone that's used this synth. So if I'm using a Moog, right, I'm going to just start, you know, going in here and let's go to oscillator 1. Start changing the shape, and you can see immediately we're changing the shape of the waveform. Let's add in oscillator 2. Also in the Moog Voyager, it actually has a pretty unique feature that a lot of other synths don't have, which is the filter spacing function. Omnisphere's kind of already had that. We've always had that feature, but this is kind of a unique synth because so pretty cool stuff. Yeah.
And well, how do you manage this now for multiple patches? Because Omnisphere has layers and layers and layers possible.
Absolutely, yeah. So what's going to happen is this: with the hardware profiles that we've created, we've also created banks of patches that will come with Omnisphere 2.5. There's going to be hundreds of new patches. So when you select the hardware profile that you're using, it'll actually automatically jump to all of the patches that were created, and that's using this synth, right? Now, something that's a benefit to using Omnisphere, everything you're hearing, by the way, is Omnisphere. We're not listening to the Moog Voyager, right? This is strictly a MIDI out right here. So if I'm playing the synth, take out the MIDI out, we hear nothing, right? So this is strictly the sound of Omnisphere. That's everything that you hear. Now, with the patches that are selected and with the capabilities of the synth, you know, the Voyager is a monophonic synthesizer, right? So we've made some decisions on some of these synths where some buttons that maybe don't make sense to have that extra control over, we've mapped other parameters. So for example, the release on-off, when release is on, it's a monophonic synth. When we turn release polyphony. So I can now play polyphonic patches on a Moog Voyager, which is, you know, kind of blows your mind a little bit there. But again, all the buttons, all of the knobs, they all do what they're supposed to do. All right? It's jumping up to something, let's say, like the System 8, which is a more recent synthesizer. You know, we kind of went far back here with the Moog Voyager, but it's a classic. So something on, let's say, the System 8, we'll select that. And again, automatically it selects that synth and also gives me the ability to walk through some patches. I'm going to turn down the volume just a touch. Now on the System 8, different type of synth. So I'm going to get different sounds. I'm actually, when I start working with the synth and start tweaking parameters, the sounds that I'm going to hear are probably going to mirror a little bit more of what that synth might sound like. We're not doing a direct one-to-one synth sound here, but the quality and the sort of characteristic of sounds that we might get would be very similar to the synth that we're using.
And you talk directly to developers for this new feature. Do you talk directly to the developers of hardware?
We have not, no, not up to this point. Okay. Obviously, we're just talking about this now. We've just announced this at the show, so this has not been something where we've been working with any of the hardware synths. We've done this on our own.
This is possible, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a lot of work, so you know, it's not something that we could talk about.
So you encourage more developers to make MIDI accessible?
Absolutely, yeah. As long as the synth that we are supporting has the ability to send out the controllers that are on the front panel as MIDI controller numbers, CC numbers, or NRPNs, then we could support it. So we will be making more profiles. Here at the show, we're showing these profiles, but we'll be making a ton more. So for example, let's just talk real quick about, let's say, the System 8 here. So another function, it shows you a little bit more of the flexibility of how this synth gives you maybe something than the Voyager does. So if I change the variation on the filter, right, we've got that sort of low pass filter. We can go to a band pass, and then to a formant. We get a little bit more flexibility because the synth has some more parameters that we can access.
You can work quicker.
Very quick. So some of the stuff that I'm doing here would take a lot of mouse moves inside of Omnisphere to get those same results, and that's what this is about. This is about making it so that users of Omnisphere 2 who own these synths, and a lot of them do have these synths, can very quickly create new sounds or modify sounds without having to do too much mousing around.
So basically, we see this in the virus already, total integration style.
Yep.
Native Instrument has an NKS,
sure,
but you need a special controller.
Different thing, you know, different kind of thing, but yeah.
But you open it to everyone.
We're making it so that it's much more available to different types of synths and different types of customers. And if someone, and we've actually seen, it's pretty interesting since yesterday announcing it, there are some customers that said, well, I was thinking about getting a Prophet 6, now I'm definitely going to buy it because I have Omnisphere and I want that control. And I was kind of on the fence. So there's probably going to be a fair amount of hardware sales that happen because of this, so that's cool. But for example, there's another thing that I did want to talk about. Oh, 1 second. If you zoom in here, you'll notice that there is something different about Omnisphere, right? So those users of Omnisphere up to now, you've been using it all this time, you have 2 layers per patch. Now we have up to 4 layers per patch. We've actually doubled what Omnisphere is capable of. And so the mod matrix is doubled, there's more LFOs, more envelope generators, lots more stuff.
This means that the 2.5 is optimized better, or is it more possible with new computers? Or
absolutely, yeah. There actually has been some things we've done, especially with the shared signal path, where it makes optimization for creating patches that behave like a hardware synth. Because a hardware synth has a specific signal path when it comes to the audio, right? And Omnisphere is very open as far as what the signal path can be. So by creating this new functionality, we have the ability to treat Omnisphere like a hardware synth, where everything sort of shares the same signal path, going into the same filters, things like that. So that's a new feature. Over here with the OB6, One thing that we actually, this was an example of where the hardware actually dictated us having to change our software. And that's because the OB6, in particular, the Oberheim sound, is built on this state variable filter, right? So did not have a state variable filter before this. We've made one. So now that's another sort of feature where people who have used Omnisphere before, you're now getting a state variable filter.
And this one is based on the new OB6, or is it the more an older one?
With the filter itself, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what we modeled it after, right? I'd have to ask that question. But it is based upon that state variable filter design. Again, we're not trying to make Omnisphere sound exactly like an OB6. What we're doing is giving you the control of what an OB6 is, and you're going to kind of get that flavor of the synth that you're using. So again, I could go into a lot of things, but another example too, to kind of just show you really quickly, let's look at the effects section, right? So in the effects section, there's nothing there that's assigned yet, but this particular synth, the OB6 here, has an effects section that you can go and quickly select an effect. So when I do that, you notice what's happening on Omnisphere is as I start to go through the effects that are built into this synth, we're actually selecting those same type of effects inside of Omnisphere.
So you consider what is on the hardware already, filter, effect, and you put it.
And we do mirror a lot of how the sound is. We actually scope it, not just like, oh, it's just a reverb. We actually are picking a reverb that sounds pretty close to the reverb, or the delay that sounds pretty close to the delay that's in the synth. So again, it's kind of giving you that same experience of being the owner of the synth you're used to and you're expecting.
So seeing every controller you map in is now a integrated and hardware synth of Omnisphere.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
It can be really sold like this because you have the description on the synths already. So you made, I think, the hardware integration very clever.
And it's a lot more than it seems initially, and I think that's people are starting to get that it's more than just like, oh, we just assigned a controller number. It's much more of a tie-in to what you expect that synth to do to Omnisphere.
Because you have normally you put a random parameter on the knob, is the filter, then put an oscillator on it because it's MIDI.
Exactly. This takes the guesswork out of when I'm going to sit in front of a synth and sit in front of an Omnisphere and I want to start creating or modifying patches. This takes the guesswork out of it. The knobs, the buttons, they will all do what you expect them to do. They will expect you they will do what you expect them to do exactly as they appear on the synth. We've also, as you can see here, supported synths like the Roland Boutique series, right? And some of these have very unique sonic features. Things like the JP08, which is using the cross-mod feature, or the SEO2, which has a number of different types of cross-mods. So what happens is when you select one of these, and I'll just go in and select, let's do the SEO2 actually.
There's also 50 new wavetables, ESP wavetables, that are kind of modeled from the synth memory.
So I'm going to look inside the oscillator itself, right? And when I'm the synth, what is happening here is as I start to turn this cross mod, which is on the SEO2, it's oscillator 2 to filter, what this actually enables, you get that really growly sort of oscillator to filter thing. Turns that on, same for down here.
I see that you have now on the waveforms SEO02.
Yes.
So you put some waveforms.
Yes. There's over 40 new wavetables that are inside of Omnisphere 2.5 as well. So as I said, it's much more than just the hardware synth. There are differences and benefits. If you don't own a hardware synth, any of these, you're still getting new stuff inside of Omnisphere 2.5. You're getting more sounds, more features, a new filter. So and it's the best thing is it's free. This is a free update for all users of Omnisphere 2. And if you are an Omnisphere 2 license holder, a standard license holder, it will be in beta next week, and you can download this. This is the first time we're doing sort of public beta for Omnisphere. So you'll be able to go download this next week and try it out for yourself. And then it's going to be released sometime in the summer, so later in the summer.
And do you think it will be available in summer? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it will be changes in the price, or it will be all the same?
No, absolutely no change in the price. No extra cost. Omnisphere 2 will still be the same price. This is just a free upgrade for
so
all Omnisphere users.
So the library will be how many new gigabytes, or do you?
I'm not sure exactly how many, but there will be hundreds of new patches. I don't know the exact number yet because we're not done. We're still in beta and we're still making patches. So I couldn't give you the exact number, but we're already at a very fair amount, but it'll be hundreds more. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, appreciate it.